In my last video, I spoke specifically about moving from a PC to the Mac for creative work and how well it could support my Huion tablet, my Loupedeck, and how well it ran Rebelle by comparison. I'll link that video in the description if you're interested. Today, I want to take a broader look at my experience in switching from PC to Mac. To be honest, I was a bit nervous about it and I had loads of concerns and questions. Would all of my hardware work? Could I get all the programs and applications that I needed? Would the Mac Mini be powerful enough? Could I game on it? And many more. So if these are the sorts of questions that you have, then stick around and let's see if the Mac Mini might be right for you. My name's Pete. Welcome to Basement Picasso. Now, just to be clear, this video is not sponsored, and all the hardware that I'm showing has been bought by me personally, but I'll leave links in the description below if you're interested in any of them. So first up, obviously we've got the M4 Mac Mini. This is the base machine, so it's got the 16 gigabytes of RAM and built-in 256 gigs SSD. And that's sitting on top of a Raycue M4 Mac Mini Hub, which has got another 4 terabyte SSD plugged into it. And I have to be honest, the pair of them look a bit like they're on life support. There's so many cables coming out the back of it. And to be perfectly honest, even that's not enough to get everything plugged in. So I also have to use the hub on the monitor that I'll talk about in a second. But both of those work really well. Been really impressed. The Mac Mini is nearly silent in operation for most of the things that I do, and I've just been really impressed with it. And the Raycue Hub with the built-in SSD, that's been really effective as well. So absolutely no complaints with that. It's got lots of extra ports. It's got the memory card slots, so it's really useful. Then next up, we've got the two monitors. So there's the tablet that I used to draw on, which is the Huion Kamvas Pro 24 4K version. I had that for a while, and I've been impressed with it throughout. It's never given me any problems. I think, as I mentioned in the other video, the only slight issue I've had with it is the app, the driver app that runs for it doesn't start up automatically. But once that's running, there's absolutely no problem whatsoever. And then for the main monitor, I've swapped out. I used to have a large Aorus gaming monitor, but I've now swapped to the Dell Q3225UE. So that's the latest version. It's the 32-inch. It's 4K, very high color calibration on it, but it also does 120 hertz. So a very nice monitor to use, extremely good for the creative side of things, but also supports a little bit of gaming as well. So I've been really, really impressed with that. Not a cheap monitor. It's something in the region of about £1,000 retail, but I did manage to get it off the Dell website for under 800 at one point, which was a good saving. Then for the main camera work, so this one that I'm talking to right now, I've still got the original Sony ZV-E10, which I've used for a while, and that's got the Sigma 18-15mm zoom lens on that, and that's all I've ever needed to use for the studio work. So those two, the lens is on that permanently. And the Sony feeds into an Elgato CamLink 4K, so that converts HDMI into USB, and that's actually mounted behind the monitor out the way. Generally that works really well, but I have had a slight issue with the Elgato that it doesn't always detect the camera when it's switched on, particularly after the Mac has been rebooted, so I occasionally need to unplug it and replug it back in, and that seems to kick it back into life. But apart from that, I had absolutely no issue, and that seems to work well as a capture device for the Sony. Then next up in front of the Sony, I've got the Elgato Teleprompter. So that's what I'm looking at and reading off at the moment as we go through this. And that's been really helpful for anything that's scripted or even just for notes or lists or things to be able to work through. So I've been really impressed with that, and that's certainly something I would recommend as useful for prompting what you're going to be talking about. And then on the audio side, we've got the Rode VideoMic GO 2. And that's mounted just on a generic sort of audio spring arm so that you can adjust it into various positions. I prefer the shotgun style microphones to the ones that you have to have closer to you, just because it gives you a bit more freedom. You can move around. It's easier to draw and chat at the same time. And I just find them more convenient. And for me, the audio quality has always been pretty good off that. So I've got no issues using that. And I've got a couple of keypads that I use. So the first one you've seen me probably talk about before is the Loupedeck. And that's something that I primarily use along with Rebel. So it's got hotkeys, it's got rotary controls that I can use for brush size and zoom in and out and those sorts of things. And I use it all the time. I think it's an absolutely superb companion to creative programs. For me, Rebel is my main one. It works with lots of other things, so I use that a lot. And then on the other side, we've got the Streamdeck, which was what I had originally before I got the Loupedeck. And I've gone back to using that. So that's quite useful for just general hotkeys and for some of the recording and camera switching type things. So I still make a little bit of use of that as well. For speakers, I went for these little Amazon Basics USB speakers. They're ridiculously cheap. I think they were less than £20 or about £18 or something like that. But they really do have a surprisingly good audio for a desktop environment. It's not going to blow you away in terms of cinematic sound, but for a small setup for listening to videos, podcasts, books, and music in this kind of environment, they are really, really good. So particularly impressed with those. Value for money of those is absolutely fantastic. Then I've got a couple of lights set up. The main one that I use that's sort of sitting above and shining my face, it's a Neewer dimmable light. So it's remote controlled. You can get batteries for it, but I've actually just got it wired into the mains. But it's dimmable and it's got a little bit of colour temperature adjustment. So you can go slightly hot or slightly cold on the white colour. So I use that as my main light. And then the rest of the light comes from a window or a white light I've got off to the side. When I took my original PC to bits to swap over to the Mac, I had a lot of drives. I had SATA drives, I had multiple SSDs and all sorts of things. So to be able to get access to those, I've used the Terramaster D8 Hybrid, which has 4 large disk slots for your SATA drives, and then it's also got 4 SSD slots. You can have up to 8 drives in it, which is pretty impressive. You can put it into RAID configurations if you want, but I don't. I've just got them as individual drives because it was really just a bunch of disks to be able to get stuff on and off while I swapped over from the PC. But it's direct attached storage. It's a DAS, not a NAS, which means it plugs in by USB. And one of the advantages of that is it's very portable. So you can plug it into mobiles, iPads, other computers, etc., and get access to the information that's on it. So for me, it was one of the ways that I swapped a lot of information across, ultimately from the PC to Mac as a transition between the two computers. And now it's a semi sort of backup storage that I use occasionally. I've got a secondary camera, which is the Insta 360 Link. So that's the slightly older version. It's the camera that's on the gimbal, so it can sort of rotate and pan and tilt. It's called, I think they're called PTZ, pan tilt zoom cameras. So that's the one that I use when I'm actually drawing and just chatting along as I draw. So I'll swap over to that camera rather than using the Sony. And then we've got the Logitech MX Master 3S as the mouse. And that's paired with the Apple Magic keyboard with Touch ID. I did look at a Logitech keyboard, but the Apple one I decided to go for ultimately because of the Touch ID. I find that really useful. There's lots of things where you log in or authenticate and it can actually integrate with that Touch ID. So more than just kind of logging into the computer, there's password things, there's websites that now integrate with it, there's buying things. So there's lots of stuff that make use of that Touch ID. So I'm really glad that I went for the keyboard that's got that. And the two of them, the Logitech mouse and the Apple keyboard, they're both wireless. They both have extremely good battery life. You charge them up, but you're talking literally weeks between charges. So you very rarely need to plug them in, and they charge up pretty quickly when you do. And I've got desktop widgets that show the current charge on them, so they're really easy to keep an eye on. So really happy to swap over to the wireless devices for that. And then one of the last things I've got this, not sure totally how you pronounce this, I think it's a Kuxiu iPad charging stand. So within this setup, we've got effectively 4 monitors. I've got the Huion to draw on, I've got the Dell main monitor, I've got the Elgato Teleprompter, which can also do a sort of desktop picture when you're not recording videos. And then to the right, I've got the iPad, which also just connects wirelessly, so it's yet another display. And I had a little bit of trouble getting that in the right position, but the charging stand is really good. It's really firm, really solid. Once it's in position, it really holds very well. It's got an excellent magnetic clamp, so when you put the iPad on, it really is on. And then it's also powered, so it charges it while it's connected. So I've been really impressed with that as a iPad holder. So that works really well. So that's everything that I've got within the digital studio space. I've got a separate space for the traditional painting work that I do, and I'll show that in a separate future video. But let's take a look at some of the other things that I've found in terms of using the Mac and how I've got on switching from the PC to the Mac. So in terms of creative software, my main package that I use is Rebel, and I covered that in the last video. But basically, I've been generally very impressed with it. It runs really well. I've had no issues with larger file sizes, and particularly the way the watercolor simulation works has all been really impressive. So that's my main package, and I'm certainly very happy that I've moved to the Mac for working with that. In terms of video editing software, on the PC, I used OBS almost exclusively, and I did try that on the Mac, and then I swapped to a paid application called Ecamm, which was very good for recording multi-camera setups and being able to record all the streams separately, which is really good for editing in post. But ultimately, I've settled on another free application, which is Meld, which is similar to OBS, allows you to create scenes and record various cameras and desktops and effects. It's got some very nice transitions, and that seems to work quite effectively. So that's my main recording software at the moment. And then for editing, I've been using the full paid version of Davinci Resolve, and that's worked pretty impressively on the Mac Mini. On the PC, I tended to have to use a lot of proxy files, which are sort of smaller files that are easier to process when Davinci is running. But for the majority of the time on the Mac Mini, I've been able to just use the native footage and edit and play that back without having to proxy everything. So the performance on it has been pretty impressive. So absolutely no issues in terms of swapping across to being able to do video work and the recording and everything that goes with it. Then my general impressions in terms of operating system and usability. For me, it's simply better than Windows. It took me a little while to get used to it, but I mean, I've had an iPad and iPhone and things, so the general sort of approach to it, there's a lot of similarities there. But everything that I've tried, it's just very nice to use, and it just seems to work. I've had very, very few issues with it. And one of the things I want to try and do is just move away from the Microsoft stuff, Microsoft Office and all that. So I've actually been quite impressed with things like Numbers and Keynote. The fact that they can open Microsoft stuff generally fairly well has made transition pretty easy. And they're very, very capable programs in their own right. So yeah, I've definitely found this to be a good transition. It's not taking me long to get up and running. I've been a Windows user for decades, and it really wasn't a difficult transition to make to start to learn macOS and all the applications within it. Then obviously one of my other main concerns was gaming. I've done quite a lot with the PC, had big graphics cards in it, and spent quite a lot of time playing various things. So that was one of my big concerns. And there's no doubt about it, the Mac OS at the moment is a little bit limited, but I have to say it was actually better than I expected. There are a number of things that do run natively, so I've been playing quite a lot of Civilization 7, which runs really well. But when you look at the Steam library, I've got a lot of games in there, and it's quite a small proportion of those that are actually also compatible with Apple. But the way I've got around that is I tend to just use services like GeForce Now. I'm fortunate enough to have a fast broadband, so that lets me stream games remotely, and there's a lot of stuff that I want to play that's on that. A lot of the games, it connects to the Steam library, so a lot of my games are available through that, and that streams anything up to about 120 frames a second, so the Dell monitor works really well with that. So that combined with the mouse, the wireless mouse, I find really comfortable to use with that. So all in all, there's definitely some downsides, and there's a few games I've got a few compatibility issues with, and a couple of things that I can't play. But overall, most of the stuff I'm interested in, I have a route to be able to play it. And more importantly, I don't have a hulking great PC that's blasting out a kilowatt of heat while I'm trying to play these things. I've got a near silent machine. Even Civilization 7 wasn't stressing it to the point where the fans, the fans weren't having to kick in. And GeForce Now, it doesn't stress the machine at all. So yeah, it's not a gaming machine by any sense, but it's surprising how much you can do on it. And it's interesting. I think there's a little bit more of a shift towards things starting to make more compatibility with Apple, and I hope that's the direction that things continue to move in. So then There's a few applications that I've used that I found really helpful just as part of the switch over to Mac. So Stats is a little bit of a free utility. I think you can pay for an upgraded version, but I've just made use of the free version so far. And it gives you some really good information about the CPU, GPU, memory usage, disk allocations, all those sorts of things. So you can get really good information and insight from that. So that was one that I saw recommended, and I would agree. I would highly recommend that. Then we have Better Display, which I spoke about in the last video. It's really good at giving you various options. It's just a bit more detail in terms of managing your displays, gives you different resolutions you can set things to. And again, there's a paid pro version that gives you even more functionality within it. So it's pretty useful. I just use the free version of that, but it has been really useful. Then another little application is Dropover. So one of the things I have found a little strange is the inability for macOS to cut files to then paste in a different folder or drive. And what Dropover allows you to do is basically drag one or multiple files or just make a collection of files into this sort of little temporary sort of folder space. It doesn't actually move anything. It's just really kind of collecting them. And then you can either copy or move those files somewhere else. You can also keep that collection. So if it's a set of files you want to go back to, it's almost like a wee sort of virtual folder. That's been really useful. I've actually got the paid version of that because I do make a lot of use of that. And then the last one I've got is Clean My Mac. Again, not a sponsored video, but it's something that's I've found quite useful just in terms of clearing things up, freeing up space, and just making sure that I've got as minimum things running as possible. So I've found that quite helpful. In terms of overall sort of impressions, I really had surprisingly little difficulty with the transition. In my mind, it was going to be this huge thing that there was going to be lots of applications that wouldn't work, and it was just going to be really different and all sorts of issues. But the overall experience was almost all the applications that I had on the PC, I've been able to get the Mac equivalent and get my licenses shifted over. They've all generally worked. The one little thing that I've struggled with, because I have this 4-monitor setup, I think I've broken the dock position settings. So normally you can have it on the left, the right, or the bottom, which makes absolute sense if you've got one display. But with 4 displays, that means it tries to either put it on the Elgato display, tries to put it on the iPad, or it tries to put it at the bottom of the Huion. The one place I can't get it is on my main monitor at the bottom, which is kind of where I would like it. So it'd be really nice if the dock position could be locked to a monitor, not just this kind of floating left-right sort of thing. So that's been my only sort of main challenge with it. Beyond that, really genuinely no regrets. I'm really pleased that I've moved from the PC to the Mac. I've absolutely no regrets, and something I would seriously recommend people look at, particularly with the sort of price point of some of the machines that are available now. So I say, not a sponsored video, all my own opinions, all my own hardware. I'm just sharing what I've done and what my personal experience has been with it. I'm sure you've got lots of thoughts and comments. You've maybe tried something similar, or you've got some questions about it. If so, please feel free, drop some stuff in the comments below, and we can have a chat about it. Otherwise, if you've made it this far, then I hope this was helpful. Thanks very much for spending a bit of time, and please consider liking the video. If you're interested in more, then maybe consider subscribing. And otherwise, I hope to see you again very soon. Thanks for watching.